And I'm starting to record right now. All right, everybody. It is 4 minutes after, and I haven't heard a ding dong for a little while, so I'm going to assume most people are here. I am Taylor. I am your host today at LGBTQ Allyship. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm really excited to have you here, as I said before. I'm going to see how I can invent that person. So I'm going to just go through some know your rights, some really basic information that I think is really important. I'm going to share my screen here, which makes it harder for me to see all of you, just so that you know that. Which screen am I sharing? I thought it was sharing. Yeah, it's sharing the right screen. Okay, so I gotta pull up. I'm by myself today, so please bear with me to making sure that I can see the chat and chat with you all verbally. There it is. All right. So this way I can see y'all. Share. Okay. Fantastic. You should be able to see my PowerPoint at this point. Anybody not seeing it? PowerPoint? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Thank you. Thanks, Jack. You're like one of the 4 people I can see on here. So we are going to talk about Know Your Rights, economic housing, LGBTQ specific. If you don't have a screen and you can't see this, I am going to be talking about the majority of it, so don't feel bad if you can't see it. We are just going to go over some really basic economic rights, workers' rights, and then some housing that specifically is towards COVID. And then after that, we are all going to have a great chat. So let's get started. All right. So the first thing that I really think is important that everybody should know, and the reason I think this is important that everybody should know is because I've just heard somebody is not getting their sick and safe leave. It is pertinent right now, and especially during COVID. If you are employed and you are working with an employer that hires 249 or less employers, you get 1 hour for every 40 hours that you work. And if it's more, 250 or more employers, you get 1 hour for every 30 hours you work. You are entitled to this. This is your right. Everybody, Washington State gets this. And specifically with the moratorium or COVID pandemic, if you are tested positive or you think that you have been exposed, you are entitled to using your sick and safe leave. If you need to use it, that's the reason it's there. If you're showing signs of sickness, please use your safe and sick time. And then also the other aspect is that if somebody in your family is needing to, you need to take care of them, then please make sure that you are using your sick time. If the other big thing to think about around this is if it has something to do with violence or domestic violence, or you need to take care of a child, then you are entitled to use your sick leave. So those are all the reasons, some of the reasons to use that. You should be allowed to have that. Emergency family and medical leave, up to $200 a day or 2/3 pay, whichever is more. If you can telework, if you can work remotely like I am right now, this doesn't apply to you to be using this. And then also, you must have been employed for 30 days to receive this. It is supposed to end at the end of this year, this particular one, but the sick and safe leave is not leaving. So next, we've got the wage theft. This is another really important thing. People don't think about this on a regular basis. I would, it's into on caps. I'm sorry, runs into on caps. Anyways, I'm not sure what that is. So with wage theft, if you think that you are having wage theft, please report it to the labor standards. I'm pointing over here because this is where my big screen is. So I am looking at you. And the Washington State LNI, you can report it there too. Wage theft looks like if you are not being paid regularly, you are not minimum wage, or you are not getting paid overtime when you've worked overtime, or say that you are being asked to work during your lunch. Just do this really quick thing. It'll only take 15 minutes. That is a wage theft. You should not be, you should really get your full break, 15-minute break here, 15-minute break there, and then a half an hour lunch if you work 8 hours. You are entitled to rest breaks. You want to make sure that you are also not being misclassified, and that you are getting your tips and service charges, and those should be in separate boxes, not part of your wage. And then if you're a gig worker, there's one more box that you should be looking at, and that's if you, because you're an essential worker, if you're a gig worker and you're delivering food goods, then there's this other portion in the box that you get paid additional $2.50 when you go through Seattle and drop off or pick up in Seattle. So those are for gig workers only, and you do not have to be working in Seattle. You could be working or living in Renton and do a pickup in Seattle, and you get that extra $2.50. So there's more. If you have questions about that, I'm happy to answer those questions. Depends on where you work and under what contract, and if you have protections or not around specific issues. Are you unionized or, okay, thanks, Liz. Yes, the unionized is definitely a portion in the contract, but you should be getting paid for meal breaks. If you do not take meal breaks, are you getting paid, or is that okay? If you agree to not take meal breaks and getting paid for that, is it okay? If you're not taking the meal breaks and you've agreed to not take meal breaks, you should be being paid for that time, as long as you're being paid for that time. But if you're working an 8-hour day, you're entitled to the meal break. You work for healthcare, and sometimes it isn't easy for you to take a break. Yeah, I understand that. It's still required. They still are supposed to be giving it to you. I do get that. Oh, you were answering, Jason. Thank you. Thank you, Liz. I appreciate, this is where community helps. I love having community. So I'm going to move us on because we can continue having conversation throughout this whole thing. I do want to talk about unemployment benefits. Yes, Debbie, thank you. Regarding wage theft, this is for hourly workers. That's what I was saying by the eight hours. Something's going on in the background of my stuff. Okay. Did I lose you guys for a second? It looked like my internet went down. All right. So that's why it's if you work 8 hours that you need to take those breaks. So unemployment benefits. I want to talk about that real quickly. The $600 ended at the end of July, but if you applied for unemployment in the past and you still haven't received it, some people still haven't received it, is what I've heard, you will get paid that back pay. I just want you guys to know that. And then also, again, navigating, trying to make sure people are getting in. You can get unemployment if you have been told that your company needs to shut down due to COVID. You're DACA recipient, self-employed, gig workers. There's a variety of different ways that you can get unemployment right now, and if it's COVID related. Also, reasons for unemployment are, like I said, the employer has to shut down, or you're working less than, I think it was 24 hours. And the other, you guys seeing my screen still? I'm still sharing, right? Yeah, okay. And then unable to work from home, can't telecommute. And then also the closure of schools are still happening if you have a child and you need to stay home with the child and you don't have childcare, or you have reduced hours, significant reduced hours. I'm seeing a question and I want to just make sure that I'm able to respond to that. Receive the extended benefits. Should I request them if I'm still underemployed? You can still request them. Yes, you can if you're underemployed. Thank you, Nadia, for responding to that too. I'm going to move us into renters' rights. That was the overall of the biggest things I wanted to make sure that you knew about your workers' rights. And renters' rights, I really want to emphasize that you cannot be evicted right now. There's only two reasons you could be evicted, and that is if you are destroying the place inside or out, or the landlord wants to move in and says that, yeah, nuisance and waste. The landlord says they want to occupy it for their own, to live in the unit themselves. Otherwise, all through Washington, there is a eviction moratorium until the end of the year. We may see that extend, but that is the situation. If you are looking for a new place, or you're having to use any kind of subsidy to pay your rent, you cannot be discriminated against for your source of income. And this means that landlord cannot offer the place to someone else, like target people for places, such as saying that they're only offering it to these kinds of people that don't have subsidy or different types of income. And then you also are, if you are doing like Section 8, they cannot discriminate towards that. There are some rules around Section 8, but they can't deny you just because you have Section 8. They also, if you're using like veterans subsidy, or you're using any other kind of SSI subsidy, you cannot be discriminated against using those as part of your income. So that is the source of income discrimination law around where you are entitled to be able to apply for any place, no matter where your source of income is coming from, to pay the rent. There is COVID. There is a COVID payment plan, for a mandatory payment plan in the city of Seattle that is going to take effect once the moratorium is over. And that is, if you are 1 month past due, you can make 3 consecutive equal monthly payments. To 1 or 2 months, you can do it over 5 consecutive payments. If it's 2 or more months, you can do 6 consecutive equal monthly payments. That is, if you cannot do that, because I was thinking about this, like if my rent is 1,000 for a round number, and we all know that 1,000 is little in the city, and I need to make 2 payments, that's $500 on top of my 1,000. That's $1,500, and that seems really hard. So what you can do alternatively is talk with your landlord, create a relationship with your landlord. And if you get it in a writing, you can make a different kind of plan that works for both of you. And this is a plan that you guys agree to, you get it put in writing, and you get it put into your lease. That way, you do not have to pay late or interest on late fees for late rent 12 months after the civil emergency ends. So if it ends on December 31st of 2001, you have 12 months before you have to pay that part. So you do have to start making the mandatory payments though. Yes. The mandatory payment plan is specified by the city of Seattle. Yes, that is correct. May be able to help you figure this out. That is correct too. If you want, there's also other ways to get support. And I'm going to be sending you all links to information where you can get support if you are behind to get some of that. If you feel that you are in violation of your renter's rights, I have legal support and resources provided, and I will provide that in an email. And Q Law, I will say Q Law has been backed up. I have had a couple conversations with other people that have used them. They love them. And, but it is about a 3 to 2 week late, 3 days to 2 weeks of a wait period, depending on how many calls they have in, just so they know they do have a wait list going on. The housing assistance for the King County Housing Justice Project, they do also have a wait period, but they work for the tenants only. If you are a landlord renting out, you can use Q Law, but they also are working for tenants. And then the tenants union is available, and they are backed up on calls too. It's best, I was told, to email them or try to read some stuff if you need to figure out. I'm going to read that in a minute. Who wrote that? Colleen. Landlord has, my landlord has, I'm reading this real quick, and relationship. If there's no way to create a relationship, I get that. There are some situations. I would love to have more of a dialogue and conversation, and I'll reach out to you if you'd like, for sure. So I feel like, oh, there it is. COVID resources. This is for the Washington State COVID resources statewide moratorium. If you are being asked to remove, or you are being told that you need to move out, you can call this number. It's a 1-800 number. They also have a website, and they also have eviction complaint form. I went onto it to see how easy it was. It really is kind of easy. Also, King County COVID resources. I have been looking over all their resources. They have updated everything. Everything is up to date today, as far as I saw. And they have resources for food. They have resources for rental assistance. They have resources for where you can apply for job resources. The library, that our wonderful City of Seattle Public Library has this program called Your Next Job, and they do one-on-one conversations about planning for your next job. And they also have a resource of applying for jobs, which is really, really a great opportunity to check out. So it seems like a weird place. Some people don't know about it, but the Seattle Public Library, it's all virtual, and it's a great place to be looking for work. And then also, let's see, somebody's okay, sorry. Also, Renting Seattle Helpline, and then I also have up here the self-assessment tool to see if you qualify for unemployment, and COVID testing sites. The COVID testing sites are all up to date. They have increased them. They're free. A lot of them are free. And so you can get a COVID test at these places for free. Turn around, some places you do have to make an appointment, and some places are only day or time specific. All this resources will be emailed to you. If you haven't already received it, you being here, you'll receive it again. So I'm going to stop sharing because that is the end. And I would love to open this up now to people. If you want to have conversation together, if you have a question for me, our community is really great here. I know that our community is rich with answers, so feel free to have a conversation and open up the dialogue. And thanks, Sharon, for your great comment. And yes, I will be emailing those resources.
Taylor, I had a general question. I was referred to here by my counselor at Seattle Counseling Service. So I'm not really aware of what the community here is or what I've dialed into. She just said, go do this. So hello.
Well, hello. So so what you're asking is, what does
I might be that she though, because I was like, everybody needs to come in here.
So LGBTQ allyship, we are an organization that works for economic and housing justice. And we provide information for empowerment, or not empowerment, but for you guys. And we also ask our community to become part of a committee to fight for and advocate for these same economic and social justice, economic and housing justice. So we have some committees where we provide that information and ask you to share your story or um, advocate to better housing for the LGBTQ community, both in South King County, North King County, and Seattle. Is that helpful? Okay, great. Another Seattle Housing Authority. Yes, I saw that. I'm not sure what. Okay. So does anybody else have a question? Yeah, Christopher. Anybody? Nadia.
Sorry, go ahead. Okay. Yeah, my question is basically is around right now I'm on I've been on Social Security for a while, so I have subsidized housing with I think it's like having Section 8, I believe.
Mhm.
If I have subsidized housing. So I'm trying to talk to my manager about, trying to sell some greeting cards for the holidays, and she's gonna let me know rather if I can do that or not, if I'm allowed to do that. So do you know when it's appropriate or when it's like how to like I'm trying to like crawl before I walk, but she's saying, and I keep tripping myself up because I get freaked out and stressed out when she says you're gonna have to if this becomes your livelihood, you're gonna have to report this to HUD every year, and so I'm just wondering what all I need to do about. I'm not trying to jinx myself or do any of that, but okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's around increasing your income.
Possibly, yeah. It's gonna increase it a little bit, not too much though, but it could over time be somewhat lucrative.
Yeah.
If it catches on.
I'd like to answer that.
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going through similar actually. Before COVID, I had this bad habit of getting into luxury businesses, which sounds like what you're doing too. And my most recent luxury business is interior decorating. So they're like, well, you're going to have to report that. You're going to have to report that. I'm like, well, I'm in the first 3 years of my business and nobody knows who the freak I am. So there's no money to report. Well, you're going to have to report that. And it freaked me out too. But it's better to report it than them have someone call fraud on you. And then you're in a deeper pile of, oh, shit, hiked than you might have been before. So I know it's freaky and it's scary and it's but just do all the self-care you need beforehand to get into that mind space. And then when you feel like, okay, I can do this, then do it, because it really will make future you very proud of now you. Seriously. Yeah. And then I have, if I can piggyback off of that, to emphasize and answer your question, is I'm currently, and as I put in the chat, I'm currently in a battle with Section 8 because my son committed a crime and he's a minor. And as we all know, Section
we lost the verbal.
Yeah, just lost the connection. Yeah.
Nadia, we can't hear you anymore, unfortunately. Yeah, she froze.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I have mental and pre-existing, physical problems. You can't dehouse me because you're in effect during the pandemic killing me. And they're like, oh, really? Well, we want to see proof. I'm like, do you want my prescription number? Like, you have to get saucy with them. You just have to, you know, because they're expecting you to not. In fact, they want you to not. So get a hold of somebody at ELAP. If you're afraid of doing that self-advocacy, or not afraid, but if you just don't have the spoons to do it, that's a better way of saying it, then get somebody from representation. So for me, I got somebody from ELAP. And it's ELAP, and I did put it in the chat. And I absolutely adore her. She's like my ride or die bitch. I'm like, where were you 3 years ago? You know? I'm like, I need some people, I need my friends, you know, and she said she is totally woke. She's like, I may be a white lady, but I'm a white ally. So I got you. And then I also have, because I'm in a unit that's directly connected to Sophia's Way, and I refused to leave the unit for this reason, because I knew they were going to try some shit. My advocate at Sophia's Way, like you had said at your hub, she is actually a Black woman who has actually been raised here in Washington, where I am not. I'm from our nation's capital, and I've seen some shit. So, whereas y'all Washington people is pampered. I'm just going to tell you right now, you pampered. But anyway, so she's African American. She's helping me, and she's doing the advocacy for me. So I've got two people doing advocacy for me. So my whole point is, if you feel like you just don't have it, get you people who do, and who will for you.
Gotcha. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Sounds good.
Anybody else have, Tim? Are you there? We can't hear you. Oh no. We can't hear you, Tim.
No se escuche tú.
There you are. Hello?
Well, can you tell him in the chat that we can't hear him?
He tried to do it again. It's still not working.
Oh.
Well, you're trying to figure that out, and just speak up when you know, hopefully we'll be able to hear you. Does anybody else have a question? Scrolling through. All right. And you can type it if you're able, your question.
I can answer the question from Tam. No, late payments do not affect your credit. What does affect your credit is if you get an eviction, which is the whole point of this session, is to prevent that. So,
well, I'm gonna back up there. The late payments don't affect you, and neither are evictions right now. So you can't be evicted at this time. But if you are, there is going to be a retro where there is a area where you can say what, there's a place where you're going to be able to say that it was COVID related, and they're talking about judges being able to drop that. So even evictions, if that happens at this current time. But as for late payments, that's not going to affect you. What will affect though is if you don't make up the payment plan and don't make plans for the late fees in the future, because you will still have to pay those, but like I said, the late fees and interest in any of those things will wait for a whole nother year, 12 months after the moratorium ends, or the state of however the word, I can't think of that word right now. So that can affect in the future. So I want to take a couple of minutes because I do have a application form for you all to fill out. If you don't know about this, this is, oh, my stuff changed. We are able to provide some financial assistance, not to everybody. There is qualifications, but I am happy to give you this link. I'm trying to get the link for you. So if you take a minute to please fill this form out, I cannot assist you without you filling out that form. I just put it in the chat. I can't assist you without you filling out the form, and everything in the form does have to be filled out. This is for the grant information. So I'm just going to be silent for a moment, let you all fill it out, and send it back. I won't see anything right now.
I do want to say, because it's really hard to get representation, thank you for having multiracial on there, because it's just like we don't exist and multiracial erasure is real. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Yeah, Christopher. You're still on mute.
Thank you. Yeah, Taylor, I had a question. So I filled out this form before we started the workshop. Do you want me to fill it out again?
It's a different form. It
Oh, it's a
looks the
different
same,
form.
but it really is a different form, I promise.
Oh, it's a different form. Okay, okay. All right. Just want
It
to make
asks
sure.
some of the same beginning questions, but then it asks them different questions. And that way I can
Oh,
link
okay. Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, gotcha. Thanks.
you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
If you're almost
Okay, I'm a good Judy. I did mine. I'm a good girl.
Great. If you're almost done, I'm just going to talk for a brief moment. Again, we have about 15 minutes left, and I really want to make sure that people feel like they are getting their answers. And I also want to put it out there that allyship advocates for housing and economic justice, like I said before. And it's really important to us that your voice matters. And so we want to make sure that you're brought to the table. And if you want to be fighting for economic and housing justice for queer and trans communities during this pandemic and beyond, feel free to email me There's different ways to be involved. We do, like I said, have a housing committee. We have a worker economic justice committee. And this is around advocating to make sure that our community is seen, heard. So please let me know. But other than that, I would love for you, can I fill out after the meeting? Yes, Tam, you can fill that out after the meeting. Just make sure that you send it in. What do you have advocating around shared housing? Ooh, could you ask a little bit more? What do you mean?
And I just have a quick question about the recording. Are we, for those who want it, going to be able to have a link so that they can, because I want to send this to my lawyer too as well.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to put this up. Normally we put this up on our YouTube.
Okay, awesome, awesome. But if you could just email me the link too, then I can just forward it to her.
So what can, Juniper, where are you? Could you expand on your question? I want to make sure that I don't try to answer it not knowing. Hello.
Sorry,
I heard
many
you.
of us do shared housing because we can't afford our own place. But if you get
Mhm.
together with some friends, acquaintances, friends of friends, you can do, we can afford a home. So I rent with some friends and acquaintances a 6-bedroom home. We all pay probably $200 under market for our rooms. But we have a housemate who there is literal dry and caked feces and vomit and rotting food in her room right now. Can be smelled everywhere, and she won't clean. We've been dealing with this for 2 months, and I have done coordinated care. I'm currently unemployed, but I did coordinated care for adults in like living centers. And as a case manager, when I saw homes that were this derelict, we were at risk of having our clients evicted for nuisance. And I'm concerned about it both as a parent and doing housing advocacy for the other queer and trans members of our home. But she's not cleaning up after her animal, and it's disgusting.
Yeah.
And my concern is if I involve the landlord, we could all be evicted under the law for nuisance and waste.
Yeah, that makes me wonder if there's a mental health issue making that a
So-
little bit difficult.
I mean, she has a stable job. She just doesn't clean up after her animal. And we've been going through this cycle for 2 months of trying to figure it out, and she won't get rid of her animal. And I feel like I'm out of resources, both in terms of not wanting to, the two of us that are on whose names and credit were on the lease, and no one else had credit to be able to get approved, or they had evictions. And so but the owner did agree, because the two of us both have good credit and good rental histories, that we could sublease. But now our subleasee is not following anything that would be accommodating for the rest of us.
So what I'm going to say, if I can, Juniper, is it sounds like the person, you're frustrated, and rightfully so. You have every right to be frustrated. Anybody would be. But I think that if they're not, you're right. It feels to you like a rock and a hard place, which is completely valid. But I think that if it's happening, and it's only been happening these past 2 months.
Well, we just moved in 2 months ago. It's been happening since they moved in.
Oh, since they moved in.
Yes.
Ooh, okay. I'm still gonna ride on the mental health thing. And it really is on them whether or not they want to see if they can take care of that.
Well, they can't. They can't. They've been doing this for 2 months, and our risk is one is we shouldn't have to smell cat
No,
shit.
no, no. Again, I fully agree with you.
Two, if the
100%.
landlord came into the house as it existed in the space that she occupies,
Right, and I get that.
We could all be evicted.
Made a very good and valid point. 100% valid point. But okay, so it's been since the beginning. Okay, well then I still think it's a mental health thing, but again, that's not for you or them
That's-
or anybody else, but that's that person that has to go into that and decide whether or not they're willing to work on themselves. The only other thing I can think of is try to see if you can find another place for them so that you're not, basically sticking them out in the middle of COVID.
So I want to be mindful of our time too. Juniper, I would love, so advocating within the housing, I'm more than happy to talk to you more about that.
Okay,
Um,
great.
on a private, I can reach out to you.
Perfect.
for
Thank
sure.
you.
I would suggest, the only other thing that I can suggest is currently, because you are all in this lease together and they sound like you have them as a sublease, just going back to making sure that you have the cleaning, something in your sublease that states the way that you all have agreed on and bringing that forward. But we can talk about that some more. That would be, you want to look at what you have written is the first thing that you do have to do, is look at the writing. And it's another thing where I would recommend maybe contacting Q Law and asking them what, it's free. They do their service for free. So it might be a great location to just send off a quick email or a phone call, make an appointment, and find out if there's anything that can be done, because they can also look at the lease and the sublease for you and have a conversation around that. So if does anybody else have any other questions? Yeah, Christopher?
Yeah, my other question was, I forgot, Sylvia, you said something, Nadia, I'm sorry. You said something about, what was it? What was it called? What?
The
ELAP?
pandemic?
ELAP.
ELAP.
What is that link called? Is it elap.com or .org?
I believe it's .org, because my lawyer has elap.org as her email. So
And what does that do exactly?
Would you put that in the chat?
yeah, let me grab it for you guys real fast. I have to go out of full screen, so give me one moment.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Sure. Yeah, I was just trying to understand what that was, what they were referring to about that. So I didn't really know what that's about.
Yeah. Great. And I love sharing resources. So like I said before, I will be emailing resources.
Screen share, is that possible?
I'm sorry?
I was asking if I could screen share, that way everybody gets to see it.
I don't know how that works.
No, but it looks like Jason was able to put it in.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, a
Thank
really
you,
quick
Jason.
rundown. They work in conjunction with King County Prosecutor's Office and Project Safety. So they provide legal navigation for victims of crime in the Seattle and King County Courthouse. So even though I'm in Kenmore, I'm still in King County, so it counts. And also the Moline Regional Justice Center in Kent. And that's on their website. Like the first thing you see is there. And then they have, what's going on and what resources. I would always say click on the services first, kind of hover over that and click on types of services. So that you can see, but it also has directly under types of services, housing stability program. So they already know what's going on here, because if they didn't, they wouldn't have it as a ready tab. But in any case, yeah, that's how I found Catherine. I absolutely adore her. And she's been fantastic up to this point. So they do medical legal partnership, domestic violence partnership. I mean, all sorts of stuff.
Okay.
Thank you,
And
Karen.
another thing that Catherine
Yeah.
told me early is that get them to your case early, because 9 times out of 10 people get them when it's almost too late. And so the earlier you can get them onto your case and to help you, then the bigger a case and better a chance you have than just waiting until last minute, running in circles, holding your butt.
Thank you, Nadia. I'm going to answer this question here. And I want to recognize that Sharon mentioned Gen Pride has some classes for any people, older adults and BIPOC. They're starting to reach out for that. Renter landlord question, landlord allows room rentals within the lease, but when asked about appliance uses, stove never works consistently. He tells us, we are the renters of his house and it is up to us to keep it up. To quote him, it's not my job. If the appliance isn't working in his house, it wouldn't be, it is his responsibility. Anything that is a major appliance, it is a responsibility of the landlord, unless in the lease it specifically says that it's not. It has to say that it's not in that area, but otherwise, all appliances and all of like if your water or any of those, and that's considered a repair, and repairs are to be still performed during COVID. So if it needs to be replaced or it just needs to be fixed, either way, it is the landlord's responsibility to have that done. So you're in your right around that. And then Lavender writes, we're going to wrap up. We've got 4 minutes and I want to be mindful of everybody's time. And it would depend on if the appliance was included in the original. Yeah. All right. Does anybody have any other questions around worker rights? Yes.
Not worker
No, no.
rates.
Go ahead.
It's not worker rates.
That's fine.
Okay. I'm actually on the Gen Pride and I'm looking for the BIPOC thingy. So if someone can help me out with that.
I can send that to you later in our
That'd be
resources.
great. Yeah.
Does anybody have any questions around workers' rights? I want to just make sure we've
No,
talked a lot about.
I had listed that I have a question about eviction moratorium, but maybe you lost it with all the other comments.
Probably. About
Okay, so this is for you, Taylor. I wanted to know if you have any insider backroom information regarding it was publicized in the Seattle Times and other news resources that the continuation of the eviction moratorium because of the landlord lobby we may soon only be able to be a part of that if we sign an affidavit declaring that we have financial need. And it really didn't tell the details of what that affidavit might ensue. Have you heard anything about that?
I have not. I can look into that and double check. I'm gonna have. And so that you're saying that it's a affidavit, or that we need to do an
Affidavit, a legal affidavit. So there's been word that the governor had already organized a secret board of people to advise him, and it's a big part of the landlord lobby regarding the eviction moratorium, and that he's being advised that too many people who really can pay the rent aren't paying the rent, so they want renters to get to still be a part of the eviction moratorium to have to sign some kind of legal affidavit to declare that we really cannot pay the rent, that we really are financially not able to because of loss of income due to COVID.
Yeah, I have not heard about that yet, and it wouldn't surprise me that that ends up being pushed forward. So, but I can get back to you on that.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. And then.
And there was one other that I just wanted to clarify what you were saying as far as late fees. When you were talking about the payment plans, my
Mhm.
understanding is that don't agree to a payment plan unless you're absolutely certain that you can actually pay that later on. So when you were talking about people who would be possibly accruing late fees, you're referring to months and months into 2021 if people can't pay the rent with the payment plan, because right now there's no late fees. Is that correct?
Right, there's no late fees. You won't be charged late fees right now. And you're not to be charged late fees for 12 months after the city of Seattle ends the pandemic state of emergency. So if that ends at the end of this year, or if that ends somewhere in the middle of next year, you have 12 months after that ends before late fees can be charged. And for the renters payment plan, you can work with your landlord to figure out a way to make a payment plan that's more feasible for you if they agree
Okay,
to it.
thank you.
You want to make sure you put that in your lease, though.
Okay,
All
thank
right?
you.
You're welcome. I saw a couple more questions. Thank you for putting up the information about health, Sharon. I need to meet you, Sharon. I have that information too that I'm going to forward to you. And then there was one other question about essential workers who need daycare. Are there resources for essential workers who need daycare? I don't know, but I will find that out. That's a really great question. I know that there are some childcare places that are open, but I don't know if they cost or what their cost is. So
The mayor keeps claiming in her newsletter that there is free childcare available for essential workers.
Well, the
okay.
problem is I'm currently unemployed, and so I can't get childcare until I have a job, but I can't accept a job until I had childcare, but no childcare is open.
The double-edged sword.
Yeah, it's like a vicious cycle, and I don't know how to do it. I was a kindergarten teacher until I got laid off at the end of the last school year. And so I'm currently unemployed, but I'm a social worker and a teacher. So both of Joe's jobs are generally considered essential work, but I can't accept any job until I have childcare. And I can't get childcare until I have a job.
We're gonna talk, right?
Yeah.
We're definitely gonna talk.
Okay.
I will be reaching out to you this week.
Okay, thank you. Perfect.
Yeah. So that is our time. I want to respect your guys' time. If there's no more questions, and then I can also respond to any of these later too. Lots of resources will be coming your way, and I will follow up with everybody about the application.
Thank you, Taylor, for your help.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Taylor, so much.
Thank you,
You're
Nadia.
welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Welcome.
Nadia.
Thank you, Taylor, for having this. Oh my goodness, it's so timely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for your support too. And Sharon, thank you if you haven't left already.